Good morning, it's Rana, and this is Rainbow Crush, a hop that Tara O'Rourke over on the Paper Snob put together, and our color today is yellow. I'm going to use this 49&Market Krafty Garden collection, but then I've also pulled out a few bits from a few other collections. I'm going to use a little bit of this from Simply Stated Design, Sweet as Honey. There's some die cuts and then a couple of scraps of paper. I also have a few scraps from this wood grain collection from Simple Stories. And there is, this is what I have from Krafty Garden. And then this washi is an older one from Wedgwood. So obviously our color is yellow. I chose a photo that is just, it's not like screams yellow, but I thought it looked really good on yellow. So the photo just really popped on yellow. And this turns out that it's not, just super yellow, but it's definitely 75% yellow. There is we're allowed to use some neutrals. So the white is considered neutral. I'm considering the craft color that's in here, and then the wood grain all as neutrals. And then I'm just going to add a tiny bit of green and even less of a little bit of blue along with my yellow here. This washi tape there has the tiny bit of blue. I just was looking for things that I thought worked for these little stripes that I'm adding. You can see I started out was going to put them on there straight, and then I ended up tearing the ends because I always tear everything, it feels like. I loved how this paper had that frame. But then I wanted to add a little bit more, and that's why I'm adding the little strips. I thought there might be a laser cut in here that would work, but there wasn't. So I'm going to go a different way for my last bit of strips, and I really, really like how this part turned out. So I took the rub-ons, and instead of using it as a full block like that, I'm cutting it, and then that's going to be a strip. And it goes into the background. I love how that looks. And it also still does appear like it's a strip. So I have two rub-ons. One is the Krafty color from this Krafty Garden, and then the other is the yellow. And I'm going to put them on both sides so it just kind of blends into the paper that's already there, and also still kind of looks like a strip, and I think that worked well. I was looking for a branding strip because I liked how the green branding strip worked, the size of it and everything, and I did not want to cut any of these full sheets for a small strip. So I ended up taking another of the wood grain. I had one more scrap, but I decided I didn't want to use it because it was the wood plank, just one wood plank, and it was going the other direction. And normally that wouldn't bother me, but I didn't want to, and I decided, and it was the same color as the one I had. So I decided I wanted one that was a little bit darker. So that's what I ended up going with. So using the rub-on, and it was super, super easy to do. Just rubs on so nicely. And then I am going to cut this one more time so that I have one more little strip. And this kind of went over into the other a little bit more, but I love how it just blended right in since it's the yellow one. This is such a gorgeous collection. I haven't used any of it yet until this layout, and I love it. I don't usually do the boys' pictures, and this is Hudson when he was little. I believe he is 2 in this picture. have to get the date from Mariah, but it's right around the same time that his sister was born, and he was 2 just for a couple more months before she turned. And I was watching some process videos, so I had to get off the ad there. You caught me. So I'm adding the strips. Of course, I'm going to have to rough up the edges because it just doesn't look quite right until I have the edges roughed up. But I do like the dimension and texture that adding these strips gave. As beautiful as these papers are, and you could just use them just as they are, it's so much more fun for me just to add something that gives a little texture. So that is why I'm adding what little bit I am. And, obviously this was just a tiny bit of paper. No full sheets, a couple of rub-ons, a piece of washi tape, and, a couple of scraps. I did, cut the one 6x8 piece, but that's it. The rest of this is scraps. And then I'm going to bring in some circles that I had, and they were from a super old fancy pants paper, and I'd already cut the circles. I don't know. I just found them in with some other stuff that was yellow, and they worked well, and the color was just perfect with this collection, so I thought that was fun. Here I've got to rough everything up. And then I'm going to also take it off screen and stitch down each strip with my sewing machine. I thought it made it, another light, airy look. So there's that. And I didn't slow it down. Sorry about that. That kind of makes you dizzy, doesn't it? I didn't like how the threads at the ends, I wanted to leave them hanging, but I didn't like how they were standing straight up. Once they got in the page protector, they wouldn't have, but I'm going to glue them down because that's just what I always do. At the top, I had some that pulled through to the back. I don't know why, so I didn't have those strings, and I wasn't too worried about that, so I just glued down the ones that were still there. Then I'm going to go through this pack of die cuts and pick out some things. The bees, while they don't have the same feel of this collection, and that, I questioned it a little bit. They look so cute with the photo, and his, big grin and chubby little 2-year-old cheeks and all of that. I wanted to use them. So I did, and I really, really like how it turned out. They blend well with the collection. They don't look like they're out of place because of the color or anything. It's just the style. The style of the Krafty Garden is obviously just, pretty. And then that's kind of, the little bees are kind of cutesy. But I felt like since I'm using this photo, it worked. And to me, it worked. To someone else, they might think it looks silly. But to me, I thought it gave the photo, it helped tell the story of the photo, I guess. It gave the photo more, I don't know. What do you think? It worked for me, so I don't know what to say. So I'm also pulling out some of the laser cuts from the Krafty Garden collection, and I love the laser cuts. They're so pretty. Trying to decide what to do with that, and it's going to end up being added to this cluster down here. The 3 bees there, and then I still had the little other spot that was basically forming into a cluster here where I'm going to add my journaling, and I didn't like having that many spots. So I'm going to decide here in a minute. I mean, it doesn't look horrible as I watch it back, but I felt like I needed to have just the 3 spots. I thought it was kind of looking funny. So yeah, there I'm going to decide and move it down. I did make a mistake after I was placing all of this, when I was gluing it together, because I kind of swept things off and then started gluing them down. And I'll tell you that at the when we get to that point. But I'm liking how this looks, and I'm about to go off screen, and yep, there we did. If you can see the bee at the top, I had it going the other direction, and it needed to go the other direction. I don't know why when I glued it down, it went the same direction as the other three, but it's really bugging me now. I had already taken the photos before I realized it. So I'm probably, it's glued down using that 1mm foam tape and some 2mm foam tape. The wings have the 2mm. And so it's going to be really hard to get up, but I think I'm going to have to try and get it off and face it the other way. I just don't like all three bees flying in the same direction. I don't know why, but I just don't like it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? So I'm just adding a few little epoxy shapes. There's some circles and a couple of hearts and a flower. I did those 3 in 3 different places, and I love how that came out. So here it is, my final layout. I hope you will hop along to everyone else who's playing along with Rainbow Crush. The playlist is in the description box, and I'm sure there'll be lots of great inspiration for some monochromatic yellow layouts today. And I can't wait to see what everybody else did. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate everyone who watches, who takes the time to like or comment. It means a lot to me, and any questions that you might have, definitely leave that comment, because I'd love to. The whole reason I do it is to maybe help somebody else or inspire someone else. So leave me a comment if you have a question. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.